to watch it. Absolutely, but it's not what should happen. All right, let's welcome in Chris Cowlin from the Spurs Chat podcast. Loads to talk to Chris about. It was all supposed to be about Harry Kane, and we're going to talk about Manor Solomon signing for Spurs as well. But Chris, I'm very eager to get your take on this. Sadio Mane available for 17 million pounds, apologies, and Paul Pogba for £8 million. Would you take either man at the club?
Absolutely. Two quality players. Premier League experience would fit in very, very well at Tottenham. But of course, Spurs at the moment do have a number of quality players going forward. It is about defensive reinforcements for us. But yeah, two quality players, and at the price they're available for, I'm sure that most Premier League clubs will be queuing up for those pair.
There you go. See, there you go. Nice, sensible. As we expected, sensible is Chris, and two good players. They're available. Of course, absolutely. It was the first thing he said was absolutely.
And definitely improves the Tottenham team. Yeah. Just as I've said, the two players would definitely improve the Chelsea team. Like, if they improve your team, unless you're a Man City fan, how can you be resistant to players like Paul Pogba and Sadio Mane? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, no, agreed. Chris, let's talk about the update, if you like, that we got about Harry Kane. Obviously, look, it's great to have you on. Firstly, before we get the update, I want to get your thoughts on the fact that Harry Kane and Bayern Munich have come in second bid, 70 million plus add-ons. What's your thoughts on that before we talk about the update?
I'm not at all surprised by the bid from Bayern Munich. I think they'll probably be back with another bid. They definitely want Harry Kane to be their centre forward next season, but it is all about Harry Kane's choice, of course. He's been very quiet on the situation. He's back at Hotspur Way tomorrow. I'm sure he'll sit down with Postecoglou and talk about the future. But the way that I see it as a Spurs fan is that we've been here so many times before. Of course, Harry Kane is going into his last year of contract. Are Tottenham Hotspur doing enough, or are they going to do enough in this transfer window? Are they going to persuade Harry Kane to stay? Are Tottenham going to win a trophy next year? Harry Kane loves the football club. Harry Kane wants to win at Tottenham Hotspur. Of course, every single player, Harry Kane is no different. He wants to win trophies. He wants to be successful as a footballer. You know, kids grow up, be footballers, and that is what they want. They want the glory. They want the medals. And Harry Kane must meet up with every single England player every so often, and every single one of them has trophies, trophies galore. But are Tottenham Hotspur going to do enough in this transfer window to convince Harry Kane to stay for a further year? And if he doesn't go in this transfer window, I think Daniel Levy would probably feel very confident about him signing a brand new contract. But he's spoken a couple of times before about if Spurs are not matching his ambition, and Spurs, if they're not going to be ambitious, then he would look to move on. It's just whether now Postecoglou can sit down and get that decision from Harry Kane tomorrow. I think will be a very, very important meeting. Of course, Spurs are not going to win the Premier League next year. We're not going to win the Champions League because we're not in it. We're not going to win the Europa League. We're not in it. And we're not going to win the Europa Conference League because we're not in it. So the only two trophies, I think, realistically for Tottenham next season is the FA Cup and the League Cup. Are Spurs going to be good enough to go and win one of those competitions? And is it enough for Harry Kane to stay at Tottenham for a domestic trophy, FA Cup and League Cup? We haven't won an FA Cup since 91. We haven't won a League Cup in 15 years. So it's going to be very, very interesting, the next move. And I think that every single player has a price on their head. If Bayern Munich do come in with a huge offer that Daniel Levy simply cannot turn it down, then of course he will have to accept it. And I think that most Spurs fans will accept the fact that the club have accepted the offer, and we then need to go and rebuild and sign, some world-class players. But at the moment, I feel like so many Spurs fans are very, very frustrated because going forward, we last season were excellent going forward. Harry Kane scoring 30 goals in 38 Premier League games. But defensively, we shipped 63 goals last season. Defensively, we need to go out in this window and sign some world-class players, some absolute quality players. We do not want to hear as Tottenham fans at the moment that players are too expensive, because we do not want the likes of Eric Dyer and Davinson Sanchez at the back.
Chris, how realistic do you see this link with Bayern Munich? There was a piece that I read in today's or yesterday's Times, written by Martin Samuel, where he basically spoke about the Bayern Munich pursuit of Harry Kane as a bit of a red herring. They're not going to spend the money. They haven't really got the money. And ultimately, this is a waste of everybody's time. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there is actually a semblance of truth and Harry Kane could end up a Bayern Munich player?
I do think there is genuine interest. Yes, but we had this a couple of years ago about the Manchester City situation, and I said then a couple of years ago it would just be so much easier if Harry Kane just put out a tweet saying looking forward to being at Tottenham Hotspur next season. It would just be as simple as that. Of course, Harry Kane staying quiet sometimes, it doesn't help the situation, but I think that meeting is very, very important to find out the ambitions of the football club, because as I said, we're not in Europe. Realistically, we're not going to win the Premier League next year. So Harry Kane wants to know how ambitious Tottenham Hotspur are going to be. He wants to win trophies. Is he going to do this at Spurs? But is it about money? I don't think it is about money. I think it is about success. Harry Kane, of course, is chasing that Premier League record as well. But as I keep saying, Harry Kane wants trophies. The club wants trophies. The fans want trophies. But are we doing enough in these transfer windows and in the market to put a team together in order to win a trophy? Because, are we going to finish in the top 4 next season? We've had a good start to the transfer window so far, but defensive reinforcements is an absolute must and a priority.
Yeah, you mentioned that Bayern Munich might come back in again. L'Equipe reporting that they are going to come back in again, and this time they're going to up it to 100 million euros, which is around 85 million pounds. The second bid was 70 million, so they're going for it now, aren't they? I think they're going to chuck a lot at this to get this done before the start of the season. You mentioned sort of players coming in. Is Harry Kane going to be impressed with the signings? Obviously, you've got a goalkeeper through the door. Maddison's coming as well, and now you've got Manor Solomon who's coming. Fulham fans will obviously know the name. He was there on loan last season. Had a decent little run, didn't he? Coming off the bench and scoring. What would you make of that as a sign, an attacking midfielder? You bought him from Shakhtar Donetsk. What do you make of that?
I think it's a decent sign, Addy, but is he going to improve the starting 11? Probably not. He's going to probably be a squad player, probably going to come off the bench for Tottenham. He could be, he could turn into a very exciting young player, and a game changer, because we've not really had game changers at Tottenham in the last couple of years. So certainly we need to look at the bench to improve that as well. But so much more needs to happen in this transfer window. But Manor Solomon, I think he's a decent signing. Of course, he's come in on a free transfer. So anything we get from him in the future will, of course, add profit for the football club. But it's about bringing in real quality, in my opinion, for this starting 11. And going forward, I don't think that we're going to struggle to score goals if Harry Kane stays at the football club. We've got so many players going forward because, of course, Manor Solomon plays in pretty much a position that Heung-min Son does. I don't think he's going to get in there before Heung-min Son. I know, of course, when he goes off to international duty, we might miss him for a few games, so he may come in then. But it's all about defenders, and I'm sorry to keep going back to it. It's all about defenders in this transfer window, and it does slightly worry me, the fact that we are going into pre-season. We play West Ham United in Australia a week today, and we don't have any defenders to go on that plane. It's the same defence as last season. I tell you, it's worrying a lot of Spurs fans right now.
What are you hoping for then, Chris? Is there anybody in mind? Is there a player that is being heavily linked? Because it all feels quite quiet from where we're sat.
The two players that we keep hearing about is Mickey van der Ven and Edward Tabsoba. These players, apparently Spurs are talking to them. If these are Tottenham's top targets, then we don't want to be mucking about trying to get top targets. You just need to go and pay the money and get the deals over the line to make sure that Ange Postecoglou has new additions. He has the squad that he wants to travel to pre-season. He can work very hard with the new players and the current squad. And get these players gelling and get these players working together in order to be ready for the new Premier League season. Because although we're going through a massive rebuild, I think next season is pretty huge for a lot of players. No. Some players really need to prove themselves. It'd be interesting to see who does actually get on that plane as well, because even our club captain, Hugo Lloris, I doubt that he will get on the plane, because Spurs, it seems, are in the middle of offloading him, and it seems that they want a fee rather than let him go on a free transfer. So that's another situation I think that Ange Postecoglou may talk to Harry Kane about tomorrow when he returns to Hotspur Way. He will probably say, look, I want you at the football club and I want you to be our captain. That's probably the route he'll go down, I would have thought.
Chris, as always, my man, really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. Chris Cowlin there from the Spurs Chat podcast. Chris always sounds positive, doesn't he? But I feel like I
don't know. There was a whisper there.
Yeah, I felt that as well. I was going to say he always does, but on today's call, I felt like it was more panic now. That is like it's the panic stations.
Yeah, you
Season
can
starts
tell
soon, we've got no defenders.
You can tell quite how desperate it was. Like in the end, for the final minute or so of our conversation there, it turned into a plea, didn't it?
Yeah, like,
it turned into a plea.
If you're listening to me, we need defenders.
Yeah.
And we have none. All right, this is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Crown Trade. It's not just paint, it's personal.